Okay, everybody, here we go. We're going to start working on the painting the pavers tonight. Real quick before we get into that, for you guys who are doing your water features, it's not a bad idea to give it another coat. Doesn't hurt to double, triple seal it. You can see on mine, I did the paint. I also added Mod Podge to it. That is what this white is. It's still drying. So this has a couple of coats of paint and a couple of coats of Mod Podge on it. So don't be afraid to put an extra coat on there. So with our painting our pavers, you can see I've kind of gotten to start, got a couple different layers here. The first thing that I did was I made a very basic wash of just water and paint, and I covered the whole thing with that, and I just used a paper towel to try to speed things up and dry off the top. I was just trying to fill in the crevices a little bit with a little bit of color. I used the brown. You use whatever color that you're looking for to fill in the grout lines on your platforms. So real quick on this, you can see I've got the colors on mine. I mentioned I'm going to try to go a little brighter, make it pop a little bit. So I've got oranges and whites and greens. But you'll remember back when we did the carving that we used the lava rock or the aluminum foil to create texture. That I bring that up because of this. If you look at my pavers, a lot of the pavers look like they're weathered and beat. You know, if you look here, 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 they just look like they've been used quite a bit. That is from the lava rock, or if you use aluminum foil. The key to painting this thing is you don't want to color these things solid colors, you know, with a thick layer of paint, because what will happen is that indentation that you made will just get filled up with paint and you just have a big basic smooth surface again. So what I do when I paint these things is I'll dab the paint, and I will dab on the paver instead of painting it. If you dab it, you have a little more control and you don't have to put as much paint on there, and the paint won't get into those crevices. So it helps to give you that look. So like I had mentioned, I did a basic wash on this one. I'll demonstrate on this one, and then I'll demonstrate the paint, how I painted this. So basically, got my water. I used the brown that was on the highlight of my rocks, the dry brush of my rocks. So basically, put some in there. I made this, again, really wet, which is what you want with the wash. So get that on there, get a lot of water on it. It's almost going to feel more like water than it is paint. Okay, and I just slap that on there like that and spread it around. You want the water to settle down inside the grooves. That's why you want it to be a little bit wet, so it just flows into there. Get the whole thing covered up real good. You can do the wash last as well. I'm going to do both. When I paint these things, I like to be able to see what I'm doing. I like to be able to see the pavers a little bit more clear. So, again, I made it really wet, and then I just dabbed this thing dry, just to try to speed the drying up a little bit, because this isn't the important part of the pavers. Okay, so I have a wash. My grout lines are full. I can let that dry. When I painted my long stretch, I picked what I thought I wanted the color to be the most dominant, In my case, because this is my pumpkin patch, I'm trying to add color to it, I used my orange, and that was the one I went the heaviest on. So what I do is I pick my dominant color, orange, and I go through and I just randomly paint slabs, the pavers, wherever. And then I go to the next color, and I just start filling them in. And just go through all 4 or 5 colors, filling them in. When you get to the end, if you see 3 of them that weren't painted, or 2 or 3 that weren't painted, and you want to add color to it, just pick one of your colors and fill it in. I try really hard not to put the same color back to back. It doesn't matter if you do, it's how you want it to look. I just like the colors to be staggered and offset as much as I can. So if you look through mine, you'll see diagonals. I'm okay with that. I won't put 3 in a row or 3 going across together. I do try to keep it as dispersed out as I can. So, take a little bit of orange. When you're doing the pavers, you don't need a lot of paint. You'll notice on here, I have just a drop of paint. That's going to be way more than I'm going to need to be able to cover this whole area with the orange. So, I don't water this down either. I use the acrylics straight up as they are. I do dab them off. And then again, when you paint them, just dab onto there and get the color just to show up. This is kind of tedious, but it's also satisfying because this really gives you the color when it's all done. So again, I just pick random pavers. There's no rhyme or reason to what I do. Just get it in there. I'll just do a handful of them here, and you guys will get the point. I'll do this first section in here. Again, they're just randomly placed. You can paint whatever order you want. If you want to paint a whole row and then go to the next row and paint, however you want to do it, I like to do this because if I spread them out all over the place, I have no idea what the end result's going to look like, and it's kind of an exciting thing for me to be able to see that. You'll see it start to come together as you get more colors in there. If you do a paver step, if you did a paver step on here, and you paint the top, make sure you match that on the side here, because that's the same paver. All right. So then I'm gonna switch colors. We'll move over to green. Wash my brush off with the orange. Again, randomly selecting this pavers. Digging on the old Halloween playlist. You can kind of see that it's starting to come together a little bit here. Random selection on the slabs. Nice easy dabbing. When you're doing this, when you dab it, you'll be able to see that the paint's not going all the way in, and that's okay because that's giving you your textures. Okay. Then we'll go on to the next color. I'll do one more color. Colors you guys will be able to see. I'll pick white this time. You kind of see the pattern. There is no pattern. Just go into it. Absolutely no rhyme or reason on the pattern. Okay, and then go through all of your colors and fill it in all the way down. One thing that I have done in the past, sometimes I'll take after it's dried, I'll take some color. So let's take the black one for instance, and I'll take a little. To say I take a little bit of white, very little white, and then I sometimes will just dab over the pavers, not very solid, just a little bit, and that gives multicolor into pavers. So don't be afraid to, mix your colors up after it's dry and go over it again. You can add texture to the pavers that way as well, and it just adds a little bit of character to it. Okay, so you do your basic wash over it. You paint your pavers in there solid, and then we're gonna do a wash as a final coat. So basically, what you do with the wash is you have water, and just add your acrylic paint to it. Stir it up real good. You can see it changing color. You can add color to it as you feel need. With my pumpkin patch, I'm kind of doing the earthy colors, so again, I'm making more of a brownish looking thing to it. Alright, and then take a little bit of your hand dish soap and just put a couple drops in there. It doesn't take very much. The purpose of the dish soap, when you paint over this, you want this paint to just sit down inside the lower spots and not sit on top of the high spots as much. So the dish soap helps to move the paint and water around a little bit on your platform. So you get the color where you want it. Out of the way. When you do the wash, you don't want to smear this on and hit it hard, because the acrylic paint, when it mixes with water, is going to loosen back up, and it'll try to loosen back up again. So you basically just want to just go over it real lightly and fill it in. The wash is going to take a little bit of color and add to your this is going to give you a little bit of an older look on your pavers when you're done. You can also use the wash on your rocks. It'll help fill in the crevices on your rocks as well at the end. This is not an important part. You don't necessarily have to do this. It just gives it an extra look to it, an extra finished look when it's all done. So you just paint it on there real lightly. Make sure you get the whole thing. Again, don't push too hard because you don't want to smear your colors around and ruin your paint job. And the color in this will pick up any of the crevices and fill in things for you. And you let that dry, and you'll be all done. any questions, feel free to ask again. We're happy to help out and answer your questions. Hopefully this covers it for you. And our next step will be pouring the water resin for those of you who are doing the water features. If you're not doing a water feature, hang tight because we're going to get the water features out of the way, and then we'll start doing the ground covers. So, stay creative, and as always, happy building.